show on the internet. And this is BBQ Central.
Start the game! Let's go!
We'll do it live. Okay. Well, do it live! I'll write it and we'll do it live!
So to get that perfect barbecue, you use wood. Are you sure it's safe? Whatever. We put the lighter fluid on, strike the match, and... Oh! Should we call the fire department? That might be a good idea.
Welcome to the Really Big Barbecue Central Show, a show that talks about all things important to the world of barbecue and grilling. Originating from the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame city of Cleveland, Ohio, the barbecue capital of the North Coast. I, by the way, am your program host, Greg Rimpey. Happy to have you aboard. If you have been looking at getting in on the show, last week was probably better. But we can mix in a call or an email this week as well if you're so inclined to do that. Here are your 2 bits of contact information.
You can get in touch with the show by calling 216-220-0966. Email Greg at the BBQCentralShow.com. On the Twitter and Instagrams at BBQ Central Show.
Anything else you want to find out about the show can be found at the main website, thebbqcentralshow.com. And here's what's happening on the show this evening. Coming up in about 12 minutes from now, a first-timer to the show. From time to time, I'm not going to say we're way outside the box on this segment coming up, but we're a little bit outside of the box because the main operation isn't typically the talk that we have here on this show. But I was forwarded a link by friend of show, Jason Kaplan, and he said, hey, I just checked this video out. You may or may not have an interest in it. He found it to be fairly engaging, so I watched it. And by the end, I was completely hooked enough to where I sought out the website, got the contact information, sent the initial email asking if they had any interest in coming on the show to talk about the biz and what they do and all that good stuff. And ultimately, a month or so or 2 down the road, maybe it's been longer than that, but certainly from all points going to be worth the wait. I will be talking with the owner of Broken Arrow Ranch and first-timer to the show, Chris Hughes. And if you aren't familiar with Chris Hughes and what Broken Arrow Ranch does, a multitude of different things, but the mainstay of the business is hunting wild game in the Texas region, specifically venison and boar, I believe. But then there's also a retail side and how they actually accomplish the operation itself when you watch it on the video, and as Chris will tell us here this evening. Very cool. Had no idea that this kind of a business was out here. So Chris will be on to talk about it in 11 minutes from now. Then 35 past the hour, we are rejoined by what many consider to be America's Butcher, the CEO of LaFrieda Meat Purveyor. Pat LaFrieda joins me. And if you keep an eye on this industry and as you follow this show, you know we have from time to time talked about plant-based meat, specifically burgers. I don't know. Maybe there has been a plant-based steak here or there, but not to any amount that I have seen. But specifically plant-based burgers that I've seen. Impossible Burger comes to mind, Beyond Burger. I think those are probably the 2 heavyweights of the industry at this point on menus, not only fast food chains, but in very respectable restaurants. B-Spot Burgers, TGI Fridays, the list goes on. I was interested because Pat was making the rounds recently on a number of news cable channels talking about the plant-based boom and what his thoughts are, and I wanted to get my own interview with Pat on that portion of the industry because we do cover it, but we haven't had a huge number of intricate thoughts, and especially I think Pat brings a unique perspective because, and if you have missed his previous interviews on some of those news programs, I believe by all accounts a very pro plant-based meat guy. And I thought he brings a unique perspective because, as everybody knows, he's steeped in beef, right? I mean, he's up to his elbows in beef every day. Everybody that works at LaFrieda Meat is up to their elbows and perhaps clavicles in meat. And this would be a direct competitor potentially or an option aside from what they sell. So asked Pat to come on. He said he was absolutely available and would like to come on to talk about that a little bit more in depth with me here on this show, and that's what we're going to do 35 past. Yeah, we're talking a little bit about LaFrieda Home as well, some of the stuff that's happening there for the home consumer. A lot of you were asking about briskets. If time allows, I'll ask him about that, especially left and right side briskets. I saw that conversation spark up here a little bit ago. So that wraps your first hour. Then we'll get into the second hour. I'm not usually a top-of-the-hour guest guy, but if you listened to the show last week, you know I mentioned her by name as we were in the middle of my conversation with Robin Lindars during her 2-segment poll last week, and that was the winner of the very first Steak Cook-Off Association event in Hartville, Ohio, going on about 2 weeks ago. That is 17-year-old Angel Todd, and she will be my top-of-the-second-hour guest. So given the fact that this is also the fourth Tuesday of the month, and that always brings a visit from the panel called the Embedded Correspondents, Steve Ray, Doug Scheiding, David Huff, John Solberg, Michigan, Texas, Tennessee, and Oklahoma, not necessarily respectively, but that's where they all live in some form or fashion. We might eat into a little bit of the EC segment on the front side of that as we wrap up and make sure that we give proper time and allow proper conversation with Angel Todd at the top of the second hour. And then we'll get into Embedded Correspondence. We have a good 3-4 items that we're going to be covering, not the least of which is catering, and specifically how you go about charging your catering. I have always worked off of a specific formula. That formula put to the test literally hours ago as I came off a price for a family member, and the discounted price seemed to be shocking to them, and not in a good way, I might add. So I said, hey, this would make a great conversation piece as we start off the Embedded Correspondence segment, because a lot of these guys do some type of catering or have catered in the past. So we'll see what the thought process is there, and then we'll build in, of course, everybody waiting for what? Cat poems that will be delivered by the Embedded Correspondence. So there you have it. We have Chris Hughes and Pat LaFrieda first hour, Angel Todd top of the second hour, Embedded Correspondence running out the duration of the show after that, 216-220-0966. Don't forget, you can follow me socially. Do that on Instagram and Twitter at BBQ Central Show. Also, give me a follow over on Facebook /BBQ Central Show. By the way, I've had a number of friend requests on my personal page. And I would just like to say this, and I say this with peace and love. Peace and love. If you ask me for a friend request on my personal Facebook page, don't be alarmed if I never get to it or I never accept it. It's not because I don't like you or anything like that. Nothing to do with that. It has to do with the fact that if I wasn't doing this show, I would not have any social media. Not because I'm a curmudgeonly old middle-aged man or anything like that. No, no, no. I just don't think that anybody has any interest in hearing where I'm going or what I'm eating or what I'm doing outside of the show. That's the only reason. And, of course, as you know, Facebook doesn't allow you to have a fan page or a show page without having a personal account because they hold you hostage. Otherwise, I would just ditch the personal account altogether. So if you've asked me for friendship on my personal page, I'm saying again with peace and love, I'm not accepting it. Just go like the Barbecue Central page because I don't do anything over on my personal page. I don't do anything over there. Nor do I want to do anything over there. I want to remain as much off the grid as possible while remaining as much on the grid as possible. Why? Because I am hypocrite. Number one, hypocrite. That's what I like. I like living and vacillating in the world of hypocrisy. It's my favorite thing. As I mentioned last week, top of the second hour, well, first interview segment in the second hour. My oldest daughter, Bobbi, was in, and she read a handful of poems. Cats, 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 and more cats. And let me say this, with the feedback that I had gotten through the course of the week, I had no idea how many of you were actually cat folk, like pro-cat. I also had no idea how many of you are not cat folks, anti-cat, against the cat. Cats are arrogant, cats hate their owners, cats don't care about anybody, blah, blah. Likewise, or on the other side of the fence, cats are great, cats are self-sufficient, they sit on your lap and they purr. I continue to be an indifferent cat person. I am a indifferent cat owner. If I never had cats, I never wanted cats. If I never had cats again, I would not miss cats. But I'm not going out of my way to open up the door and let them run out at the same time. Regardless of what people think, I'm not that kind of a cat owner either. Smokin' Joe's Pit Barbecue against cats. All right. Chris Hughes coming up out of the break. I will talk to you quickly about the Barbecue Guru. By the way, if you are in the instant chat in YouTube and you want to share your favorite cat poem, let it loose. It may get read on the air at random. The Barbecue Guru believes that outdoor cooking should be fun and easy because it can be with their automatic pit temperature control devices. If you have a Weber Smoky Mountain or some type of ceramic cooker or even a decent-sized offset pit, this might be for you. If you don't want to contend with fire, if you don't want to learn fire management, or you just want to make it as efficient as possible, then you might want to look at the Barbecue Guru. They have these devices that will attach to your cooker of choice. And depending on what level of technology you get or what pit controller you get, you have a bunch of different options as far as the tech is concerned. But in its simplest form, set a temperature and let the Guru do its thing. It will maintain that pit temperature you set it at. No problem whatsoever. Just make sure that it has enough fuel in it to keep it going. If you want to ramp it up or ramp it down, you can certainly do that by simply adjusting the temperature. No damper adjustments on the top or the bottom. No pinwheel dampers on the offsets, nothing like that. Just hook it up and away you go. Then put the pit temperature probe in the cooking chamber where you want that temperature to be set at, and then it's magic. It just works. You visit the website, bbqguru.com. That's bbqguru.com, and get started on your guru journey today. If you have any questions, call them 800-288-GURU. That's 800-288-GURU. The Barbecue Guru continues to be a breakthrough in barbecue technology. Don't forget to check out their accessories as well, like the rib ring, which is becoming a very hot seller. Sold out the very first run. They are now back in stock, so if you're looking for a way to double your rib capacity on a ceramic cooker, the rib ring is something that you're going to want to take a look at. Don't forget the monolith grill, number of different accessories to make your barbecue and grilling life easier. bbqguru.com. That's bbqguru.com. Broken Arrow Ranch coming up. Stick around. We'll be right back.
Broadcasting live from the Barbecue Central Show studios in Cleveland, Ohio. You're listening to the Barbecue Central Show. Once again, here's your host, Greg Rempe.
And this portion of the show being brought to you by Butcher Barbecue, makers of award-winning injections, marinades, rub seasonings, barbecue sauces, grilling oils, all of Butcher Barbecue products tested on the competition circuit, as well as in backyards worldwide. Be the pitmaster of your neighborhood and visit butcherbbq.com to stock up right now. That's butcherbbq.com. Always trust your butcher. All right, leading off the show tonight, someone who has a very unique business. I was sent a video, as I said earlier, from my pal Jason, who was intrigued to buy it. And after watching the video, I was hooked and had to have him on to talk about it. You'll be especially interested if you like deer or other wild game, and you might get some cooking tips too. So let's head to the Fogo Charcoal Hotline and welcome first-timer to the show, the owner of Broken Arrow Ranch, Chris Hughes, joining me on the show. Chris, how are you, buddy?
Good, Greg. How are you?
I'm absolutely fabulous, Chris. Appreciate you making time this evening. And I guess before we get into the nuts and bolts of Broken Arrow Ranch and what you do, maybe a quick background about yourself, where you're from originally, and if you are a fan of live fire cooking.
Sure. So, Chris Hughes, Broken Arrow Ranch, born, raised Ingram, Texas. It's Central Texas in the Texas Hill Country. And Broken Arrow Ranch is a purveyor of wild game meats. So what makes us pretty unique is that we go to ranches around the state here that have an overpopulation of deer and antelope, and we harvest those animals directly in the field. We take a shooter, a skinner, a mobile meat processing unit, and a government meat inspector. Go out there, we cull the herds for these ranchers, pay the ranchers for the animals that we harvest, process the meat, package it, and ship it nationwide.
So that's it from a very high level. From a history standpoint, 1983, I believe it was your dad that kind of started Broken Arrow, or, whatever it was previous to maybe getting its name. But was that his whole mission to get it started, was to help kind of thin the herd, if you will?
Right. So the vision was that there's a lot of non-native deer and antelope that were released here in Texas in the 1930s, and the populations boomed. And there was a fear that these non-native deer and antelope were going to outcompete the native whitetail deer for food. So there was a concern of trying to keep the population in check. At the same time, he had seen that venison was a popular menu item all over the world, but it was pretty much non-existent here in the United States at that time. And there was really no domestic source for that venison. So he kind of saw an opportunity there. He saw a potential supply and put two and two together.
So as the business starts to grow, are you hunting the wild game, if you will, and then taking it around to restaurants first, or was there also a built-in end-user want for the meat as well?
Well, it certainly took some convincing. There were a lot of chefs. Our primary targets, certainly to start off with, were fine dining restaurants, because that's where venison was being used most often on a wholesale perspective. But yeah, he was basically just loading up a cooler with a whole deer leg in it and trying to knock on some chefs' doors and convince them it was something that they wanted to buy. I
can't sit here and think off the top of my head that, all these fine dining restaurants, that venison is something that was sought after. Is that something that popularity has ebbed and flowed over the years and decades?
I kind of joke that venison's been a fad for 15,000 years. It's been around a long time, and I don't think it's going anywhere. But from a historical perspective, venison's always been on the table. It was King's Fare. I tended to joke that it was the rich man's fair and the poor man's fair, because it was the fine dining restaurants and it was in the backwoods, but it was the middle class that I think has missed out on it historically and is now getting more and more familiar with wild game meats, both in use in hunting as well as in their restaurants. But it had a seasonality to it. It was always from a European chef training. It was always a fall and winter menu item, and that trend has broken a lot within the last 10 years or so, and you're seeing it on menus year-round now.
Chris Hughes joining me here on the show, owner of Broken Arrow Ranch, the website brokenarrowranch.com, if you want to check it out while we're talking here. I'm only exposed to venison from the people that I know that will go out during deer hunting season and try and get a buck or two or three or whatever the catch is that they can make. Is what you're doing any different than what a hunting deer season would do?
There are some differences that allow us to sell the meat, but in its essence, no. What we're doing is we go out to this ranch. We're seeking animals. We're shooting them. All the animals are harvested with a headshot at distances from 50 to 200 yards typically. So it's a very stress-free harvest that's on these animals. But it is hunting. In that sense, where it starts to differentiate itself is that we're not just trying to get one animal. We're trying to get 10, 15, 40 animals, on a harvest. We have a government meat inspector that's out there present with us watching the whole thing, and that's what allows us to be able to sell the meat along with the mobile processing unit that is really it's an inspected meat plant on wheels. So those are the key differences and key things that allow us to sell this meat.
Yeah, so I want to dig into those three items here just a little bit. Are you approaching ranchers, or do they, I would imagine at this point you guys also have a pretty established name in what you do out there, so ranchers that are prospectively interested would say, hey, Chris, I have X hundred amount of acres and I'm getting a little overrun, or what is your process to make sure that my land management is kept in the right direction?
Right, it's a little bit of both. Over the years, we've developed a Rolodex of ranchers that we keep in touch with, but at the same time, we don't know them all, and a lot of them do a very good job of keeping their information private. So when they talk to their neighbors or they have this need and they're talking to a wildlife biologist, our name does come up. So sometimes we're contacting ranchers, seeing if they have a need for us, and sometimes they're contacting us and saying that they need to reduce their populations.
And in the end, as you'd said, you are paying the rancher for whatever the cull take is for you. What's the going rate for your services?
So one of the things I think has made this business successful over the years is recognizing that these animals do have value. Certainly early on, there was not a lot of outlets for these animals with the rancher. But Dad paid them. They would call us and say, how much does it cost you to come out and get rid of these animals? And I said, well, let me tell you the good part. We're going to pay you. And I think that's part of what's made us successful. For us, the rate, it depends on the species. We typically pay per pound. One of our most popular animals is the deer in the area, the axis deer. And we're currently paying $2 a pound or $3 a pound on those right now. So you wind up with about $150 to $200 per head on that animal. And it's fairly comparable with what these ranchers can get by trapping these animals live and selling them to other ranchers. Where it breaks away is on the trophy bucks. Those are worth a lot more money. But for us, you can't eat the antlers, so people like us, because we can go through, can be very surgical on how we do the harvest. We can leave those trophy bucks for breeding on their land or for other purposes, while we're targeting specific cull animals, cull bucks, those things like that.
So are you looking for ones that might be a little less robust, or I don't want to say sickly by any stretch, but ones that might be behind the pack and that would just be eliminated by one way or the other?
Yeah, not as much looking for the sickly ones. It's and really one of the things about this process is that if an animal is sick or ill, typically they lie down and they don't even present themselves to us for harvest. So we're really looking at the healthy animals. Where we would be targeting is really what the rancher wants to target, but those would be females. So you're looking at healthy does and bucks that maybe their antlers aren't quite as large as the one standing next to them, or aren't quite meeting the criteria that the rancher wants. And so those are the ones that would be called young bucks and does.
Chris Hughes joining me here on the show from Broken Arrow Ranch. All right, Chris, so let's talk about that mobile processing unit. I don't know how many of my listeners have actually been in any kind of meat processing facility, to include myself. So the the trailer or the unit that you have that I saw in the video prior to me contacting you was very impressive. So what does it entail? And then we can also talk about the meat inspector here in a minute.
Sure. So in order to sell meat, there's rules and regulations, and they're very specific on what's required. One of the beefs I've actually had with the food inspection industry or food inspection laws is that they're all process-based instead of results-based, meaning that they give you very specific things that you have to do, and then they think that the meat's going to be safe on the back end. But that worked to our advantage a little bit because they were very specific on what was required for a meat processing plant. You had to have walls that were impermeable to water, can be cleaned and sanitized. You had to have hot water. You had to have the refrigeration, all these different kind of rules and specifications. So what my dad was able to do was take all of those specifications, put them on the back of a trailer, and then when he submitted it for getting a grant of inspection, meaning that it would be improved, they came up and they said, well, we can't do this. This is on a trailer. And he said, well, there's nothing in the rule books that says it can't be on a trailer. You just says I've got to have this, that, the other thing, and I've got every single one of them. Mm-hmm. So they couldn't find anything that would disqualify it, so they approved the trailer, and that's how the whole thing works.
So having the USDA inspector on site, is that a cost that you incur to some degree, or is it highly subsidized by the government in order to have somebody on there? I know I have a whole different diatribe that I'm not even going to get on tonight about horse meat and stuff and USDA inspectors or the lack of subsidizing for that. But what about for you? Is that something that would be akin to like a beef inspector?
Right. So it's the same meat inspector, same people. They would be inspecting our process one day and could go down the road and be inspecting a poultry plant or another slaughterhouse, that's in our area. One distinction though, without getting too far in the weeds on the meat regulations, we actually work, and our meat inspector is a Texas Department of Agriculture inspector, not a USDA inspector. Okay. And just long story short, when the Federal Meat Inspection Act was written in 1900, they again were very specific about what they defined as meat. They listed beef and they listed pork and lamb and goat, but they did not list the original red meat of venison. So it wound up not falling under USDA jurisdiction, but because it's inspected by a Texas Department of Ag, we can ship it across state lines and sell it all over the country. So again, it's a little bit of a maze in the meat inspection world, but in terms of our cost, part of that is the mission of the Texas Department of Agriculture. So we don't pay for the first 8 hours, but we do pay for any overtime that gets incurred.
From a grading standpoint, you look at the beef industry right now, and I don't think it's ever been more popular than it is today. You have all these choices that folks weren't really hip to even 5, 6, 7 years ago. A lot of prime now. You have a lot of Wagyu. Japanese stuff is getting flown in here. Do you have similar grading for like deer or not so much?
No, there's no specific grading from like there would be with prime and choice and select. I guess we could argue that it's all prime.
Right, of course.
At least from a from our perspective, but we've built our brand on quality, and we stand behind the quality of our products, and so we've developed a very good reputation of that quality. So we put it out, and we've had very, very few complaints on the quality of the meat since 1983. So we've been at it a long time.
So let's talk about venison steaks, or maybe whatever your favorite part of the deer is. What's the best way to cook it, or how do you like to cook?
Sure. So you asked earlier about live fire. I love live fire cooking. I think that's an excellent way. It gives it a little hint of smoke. You can You can really control the heat. One of the challenges is controlling the heat with live fire, but if you build your fire right or have your grill where it can raise up and down or move side to side, then you can certainly control that heat. For me, everybody thinks that there's only the backstrap that comes on a deer, and it's certainly a prime cut. It's a very nice cut. But one of the things that we really enjoy are the leg steaks, the leg fillets. And what we'll do is we'll take the whole leg, we'll age it for about five days or so, dry age, and then we'll vacuum seal it and we'll let it wet age for up to 28 days, 28 to 30 days. And then at that point, we bone it out, but you're letting those enzymes kind of break everything down, tenderize the meat, let some flavor develop. And then once you bone it out and clean it up, you've got a beautiful, beautiful venison steak. And it's got a lot of flavor. Part of the more muscle works, the more flavor it's going to develop. And the less the muscle works, the less flavor it has. So the loin is very, very tender, but it doesn't have a lot of flavor to it. On the flip side, the shanks have a tremendous amount of flavor, but they're very, very tough, and they need to be braised to kind of break down all that connective tissue. Those leg steaks are just right in that sweet spot, right in the middle, where they have, the tenderness of a loin, but a little bit more flavor development. And then for my money, I'd like to cook it simply. I typically go with venison so lean, it really needs some kind of oil or fat around it to help protect it while it cooks. That's why a lot of people wrap it in bacon. But again, I think then your meat just tastes like bacon. So I'll typically rub it with some oil. Pretty heavy on the salt because it's very, very lean. It doesn't have that fat to carry the flavor, so it really needs a large dose of salt. Cracked pepper, whatever herbs you have around, some rosemary, some garlic, you grill it up. And then usually some kind of sauce is a nice way to top it. That'll help bring some moisture if it gets overcooked, but it's also just kind of a nice kind of flavor component to the whole dish.
If you are interested in grabbing up some wild game meat, then head over to brokenarrowranch.com. That's brokenarrowranch.com. And we are talking with Chris Hughes, the owner of Broken Arrow Ranch. Chris, really appreciate the time tonight. Thanks so much for coming on.
Absolutely. Thank you for asking me, and happy grilling out there, folks.
All right. Thanks again. There he is. Chris Hughes from Broken Arrow Ranch. So who's up? Who's going to be the first guy to brokenarrowranch.com, or gal, and grab up a venison steak or venison leg? How cool is that process? You kidding me? Mobile processing plant right there. Go onto your ranch, thin the herd, and they pay you for it. Nice. That's brokenarrowranch.com. They also have some sausages, some lamb stuff on there. They have some farm-raised venison as well, and was it pheasant? Pheasant? Hold on. What is it? Farm-raised, the quail. That's right, not pheasant. Sorry. All right, attention, anyone who loves sausage and barbecue. That's all of us, right? Southside Market and Barbecue, established in 1882, and the oldest barbecue joint in Texas, owned by the same family for 3 generations, famous for the original beef sausage, coarse ground and a natural pork casing, and they're known for the authentic Central Texas barbecue like briskets and ribs. All meats, including those briskets, slow smoked for many hours over real Texas post oak wood. They ship nationwide via the online store, southsidemarket.com. Shipping customers can choose to order now and ship later, include a custom gift note, and mail to multiple addresses without additional charges. All items are shipped sealed and in dry ice to ensure complete freshness upon arrival. All meats processed in the on-site USDA inspected facility. On-site meat markets for fresh and smoked products. Custom orders welcome as well. 2 restaurants you can eat in. Elgin, Texas since 1882, and Bastrop, Texas since 2014. Grocery distribution through Texas and many surrounding states. Get 10% off your entire order online when you use coupon code BBQ Central. That's BBQ CENTRAL, all one word, lowercase, BBQ Central, 10% off every order from the first to the last at SouthsideMarket.com. And Pat LaFrieda coming up after this. Stick around.
Continuing to produce incredibly mediocre content in an exceptionally professional way. You're listening and watching the BBQ Central Show. Once again, here's your host, Greg Rampey.
Cookin' Pellets is sponsoring this segment, your number one source for quality wood pellets for all your pellet-driven cookers. You visit cookinpellets.com for all your information, flavors, and so forth. You can also order there. If you'd rather do it through Amazon.com, you can do it there as well. It's cookinpellets.com. All right, as I had mentioned in the open, the interest and visibility on plant-based meats continuing to gain momentum. So much so, you might have seen my next guest making the rounds on some of the news networks, talking about it on those. But let's dig into plant meat and meat and where they compare, if at all, obviously where they contrast. But more importantly, what does the future hold for plant-based meats? Let's hit the Fogo Charcoal Hotline and welcome back America's Butcher, and perhaps we can add him as another official Barbecue Central Show butcher. Racing to that hotline, we welcome back friend of the show, Pat LaFrieda. Hey, Pat.
How are you, pal? How's it going?
I'm absolutely fabulous, Pat. Appreciate you making time for the show, as always. And, the show here, Pat, has steadily been tracking the plant-based meat niche for a few years now. And in the past, a non-meat option was a bean burger. The best bean burger, to me, is average at best. But there is a newer option out there right now that appears to look like meat and feel like meat, taste way more like meat than the bean burgers ever did. And there are a few big players in the sector pushing the weight around. So as someone who is known for meat and beef, what are your high-level thoughts as you see this plant-based movement continue to gain steam?
Well, I think that it's going to continue to gain steam, but I think they have the application completely wrong. So I have been sampling these products for a number of years, and we were the first meat company to endorse, at the time, Impossible Burger. Mm-hmm. And we've been switching over to Beyond Meat just because, we supply meat to restaurants, and it's not meat. It's the only non-meat item we distribute, but I think an alternative source of protein is important, because I think as the population grows and I think beef prices will continue to skyrocket, as we've seen with briskets skyrocket this season.
No doubt.
But we want to be able to control that somehow. And here's the problem. I don't know why they have marketed this product towards burgers. And I say that because I've eaten this product cooked by some of the best chefs in New York City, mm-hmm. in other dishes. So when it's in another dish, especially David Chang made some of his famous beef infused dishes with this product, it was very difficult to tell that it wasn't actually meat. But when you put that much of it between two buns and something that's supposed to be America's comfort food, I just think that's a huge mistake on their part.
I guess from a raw or a mass form, Pat, how are you getting it from, a Beyond or an Impossible Burger? Is it just like a vat of what would look to be ground beef?
Impossible Burger was sending it to us initially in it only comes frozen, and it was coming in these 10-pound tubes, and now Beyond Meat and Impossible have been sending them in burger form, so in 6-ounce burgers or 5-ounce burgers, depending on what you order. So I almost preferred it when it was in those tubes so that a restaurateur could use it for other applications. I mean, they can still chop it up if it's in burger form, but they continue to market towards burgers. And, hey, look, I will give them credit when it comes to, fast food restaurants have really jumped on that bandwagon quickly. I mean, White Castle, the fact that they took it nationally, but I think that could wind up to be a bad thing also, because the restaurants that would be normally interested in using a product like that, now the general public will see that they're using the same quality of product that White Castle is using, which for high-end restaurants can be an issue, right? I mean, they usually pride themselves on the best quality products available, and all of these products were super, super GMO products. And so initially you didn't see any of those claims because, I mean, they're completely genetically modified. So they've been able to skirt that in a way and get GMO certified, I should say non-GMO certified, but I still have some questions about that because I don't know how you could not modify it genetically and be able to pull protein out of the roots of these plants. But that's not my battle. My battle is right now it's been supply, and I have some serious concerns as to why these facilities that had too much product now don't have enough. I almost wonder if that isn't part of the marketing plan.
So you think maybe they do have reserve and they're trying to create a little bit of a clamor on product shortage, and then all of a sudden magically there's going to be more meat, and that potentially could cause a price spike. My words,
yes,
by the way.
Especially since Beyond Meat went public first, and then Impossible Burger stopped producing product because they had a recall. And the recall had to do with some plastic packaging that got chopped up and thrown into the product. But recalls like that are normally corrected quickly. So it's been a few months since we've had any Impossible Burger supply, causing all of those consumers to want Beyond Meat, kind of making that stock a little bit higher than it should be.
Like, what's the demand if people are calling LaFrieda? I mean, is there a definite demand for it? I mean, when we look at plant-based success, as you had mentioned, White Castle's on the deal now, Burger King, Carl's Jr., Red Robin. I mean, the list kind of goes on. Is it safe to say this is kind of past fad, and this is something that's going to have some staying power to a certain degree?
I think it will have some staying power, but I don't think it'll be in the burger realm. I think it'll be as an alternative meat source, where I think having alternative protein sources is a very good thing. Again, it will keep our beef prices in check. We'll always want to eat real beef. That's another thing that always got to me. I didn't understand why it needed to artificially bleed. If you're trying to eat something that's not meat, then why should it have to bleed this red dye or beet juice? It never made much sense for me. But I think that its legs will hold it in place for many years to come as an alternative meat source. And as I said, we do need to start to find alternatives. And protein has been huge, in huge demand, and we've seen that mostly in the pricing of veal, whereas veal has declined in use and in consumption, mostly because of its bad publicity that it has, and it's kind of not accurate. I mean, the calves are no longer enclosed and chained up and held in place. But we see it in the pricing of milk-fed veal because that milk is really the whey protein isolate that you see in protein drinks.
Mm-hmm.
So as protein drinks have become more and more popular, it has risen the price of whey protein, which was fed to calves, and that was the milk-fed formula fed to calves. So it's raised the price of veal. So that in itself shows you that there's been a demand for protein, and here is another great source for protein. I don't know why the fat content has to be as high as it is. I think that would be a great, and maybe they'll fix that, and I think that was a great selling point. It would have been a great selling point if it had less fat.
Yeah. It's not necessarily like a real healthy alternative if you're looking to get away from the beef.
No.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah. That's why you'll see very few claims on the packaging because, they don't want anyone to rebuke that. But again, we're very open-minded and progressive meat purveyors, and it was something that we identified as an item of interest, and we were of the first to carry it in the Northeast. So we've been carrying it for a few years. I would say that the chefs that began with it don't even use it anymore. But again, with this recent lack of supply, and then the idea that Beyond Meat went public, which gave it a lot of publicity, there's been a huge demand for the product. And I don't think most of the public knows that this product's been available for a few years now. It's not very new. It's sat on retail shelves for a few years as well. So, it's a lot has to do with perception right now. I think it will. I think it will emerge to be a good meat alternative. Whether it's going to take over the burger realm, I think that's where it will fail eventually.
Yeah, that's a bet we're not going to go take the long odds on for sure, but could see in a different way in the kitchen. We're talking with Pat LaFrieda.
In a different application.
Yeah.
It's great.
Absolutely. Pat LaFrieda joining me here on the show, LaFrieda.com, the website if you want to check it out. Pat, let's switch gears a little bit, talk about LaFrieda Home, which I'm guessing is a little bit more focused towards folks like me, homeowners or, end users, consumers, I guess you could say. You guys really trying to make a push on that end?
Yes, our home delivery we started a few years ago, really just to combat the amount of phone calls that we were getting to the main office for home delivery. We started a site, and really it's grown organically. I don't know of any other company that doesn't stock pre-portioned meat. What we do is so I don't know of another company waits for the delivery, the order to come in, then cuts the meat that night, and then overnights it the next day. So that's the service that we provide. So if you were to order something on LaFrieda.com on our home delivery page, those are the same steaks that some of the best restaurants in America are getting supplied with. We're cutting them the night that you order that product, and we're overnighting them the next day. So you'll get that product fresh. It's never been frozen. It comes with ice gel packs and an insulated cooler. And again, you open that. If you choose to freeze it, it's all vacuum packaged. So it would be good in your fridge for 3 or 4 weeks. But if you chose to freeze it, you could, and it would be good up to a year. But as I always suggest, if you're in a country in which you have the ability to buy fresh meat, I would never freeze anything unless I had bought something that I wasn't going to finish before it went back. So, a lot of things go in your freezer, and we often speak about America wasting too much food. And I would love to know the number as a percentage of the amount of food we put in our freezer that really never comes out. It goes in, it stays in there for about a year and then gets tossed. But having a source to, freshly cut, dry-aged steaks to burgers, to you name it, we offer it on our home delivery site, and it's something that's really grown over the last couple of years.
Obviously, dealing with this show, Pat, there's a lot of interest because it's a barbecue show, and briskets. You had mentioned briskets being pretty popular here this summer, of course, especially in the prices of briskets, as you've talked about. So let me ask you, I guess, first of all, can you get briskets at LaFrieda.com on the home section? And then secondarily, and I can't believe I'm going to ask this question to you, but you're the expert, is there any difference between a left and a right side brisket as far as tenderness is concerned?
Well, okay, let's handle the second question first.
Yes.
I'm going to ask you: has that been a topic? I've never heard of it before.
Of course, yes. I mean, it is.
I really feel terrible. It's the first time I've heard of that.
Yes, there is staunch people on either side saying the right side is better or the left side is more tender.
I would love to test them and show them two briskets and ask them which one was the left or the right. However, so the only point I could see from that is, are they referring to when an animal sits and it will only sit usually on one side and then raise itself up
honestly,
by one side?
I don't know if there has even been that far of a jump down the rabbit hole, other than just saying that somebody said that the left side or the right side was more tender versus the other.
The only difference between the left side of an animal or the right side of beef would be that as the animal sits, they usually sit on one or the other side, and it's not all lefts, it's not all rights. So that would debunk that right there. And cutting briskets my entire life, I have never seen a difference between the left or the right as far as consistency of the product, marbling, the two muscle groups that we have in there, the first cut and the second cut, or otherwise known as the nose and the decal of the brisket. I have not ever seen a difference between the left or the right. Now, have I ever tasted them side by side to see if one was more tender? No. But physically, I have never seen a difference. Now, I have seen a difference in the size of cuts that are either from the left or the right, but they have to do with the rear of the animal, because the rear of the animal is what is really taking a break. And if you see animals that are lying down, they're usually either lying completely on their bellies or tilted to one side, but the front is more likely than not still at least half up. The briskets, the two brisket groups, which only represent about 22 or 23 pounds of the animal, hold up 30% of the animal's weight. So there is a significant use for these muscles in the animal. I mean, 30% of the weight is tremendous.
Yeah. Especially
when we're talking about animals over 1,000 pounds. I mean, it's a lot of richness and a lot of strength. And and that's why it's not something that you can just quickly grill like you would grill a steak. That's why it's a slow cooked item, as opposed to something from the back, which is a grilling item. But left or right, no. I would love to see some more evidence. Someone came up with that, and it's a fun topic to talk about. I just have never seen the difference.
So what about briskets for sale at LaFrieda.com?
Yeah, we offer briskets on LaFrieda.com and usually trim them. Now, I know that a few months ago when the price got really crazy, we temporarily took them off because we just thought that the price of the brisket was more than it may have cost for the shipping, because shipping overnight is difficult. But it's something that we are putting back on shortly, and you can get that brisket trimmed, or you can get it dropped, and you would get it fresh.
And you can get them in that 16, 18-pound range?
Yes. No, 16 or 18-pound range.
Yeah.
No, they're trimmed a little bit better than that, and they are in the 10 to 12-pound range.
Okay, but whole briskets, point and flat.
Oh yes, definitely whole briskets. So we currently have them available on our site, like I said, and we had only taken them off a couple weeks ago, maybe for like a week, until the prices got a little bit better for our consumers. But they're about 10 to 12 pounds. That's how much a brisket should weigh. When they're in the 15 to 17 pound range, there's either two things have happened to the brisket. One is that it hasn't been trimmed of some of the navel side towards the belly, and another thing is that the fat on the nose is got to be more than an inch thick. Other than that, those really big briskets may come from older animals. And I think we've spoken about this before. An animal that's over 30 months of age, so we're talking about cows, old milking cows, when they're brought out to pasture, they're not even graded by the USDA. That's how bad the quality is. So the marbling is bad. It's over 30 months of age also subjects consumers to BSE. So mad cow disease has only been found in animals that are over 30 months of age. So we don't handle any product like that. Our beef is in the 24 months of age range, and that's why it's so tender, and that's really the secret to it being sweet and consistent.
Pat LaFrieda breaking it all down for us here this evening. You can go to LaFrieda.com and get your dry-aged steaks, or your not dry-aged steaks if you want. The briskets are up there as well. Again, it's LaFrieda.com. Pat, always appreciate the time, man. Thanks so much.
My pleasure, brother. Good speaking to you.
You got it. There he is.
Good night, everyone.
Pat LaFrieda right there talking about briskets. And, man, did he just talk about mad cow? That was great. My board is disconnected from my laptop. That's great, too. That's fantastic. LaFrieda.com, LaFrieda. LaFrieda.com, and check out. And those steaks, pretty awesome. The 70-day dry age are back, by the way. They were off for a little bit. All right, Green Mountain Grills. Great pellet cookers. If you're looking for some, get ready. Why not? You have a classic line to choose from. You also have a prime line. The prime is new this year. They have the look-in glasses both on the cooking chamber and on the pellet hopper. They have two internal meat probes. They have the 12-volt power technology, more robust chassis, just a better built overall cooker. Not to say the classic isn't good. That's what you want. I have two. They work really well. Daniel Boone and Jim Bowie are the ones that are going to go in the backyard. Davy Crockett is what you're going to take to your tailgates as they start to approach here shortly. They also have pellets to fire those cookers and a whole bunch of other great stuff. Sauces, rubs, accessories. GreenMountainGrills.com. That's Green Mountain Grills, one of the leading pellet cookers out there today. All right, we are back to wrap the first hour right after this. Stick around. We'll be right back.
Big name interviews, advice on cooking brisket and ribs, and the only host willing to share his honest opinion on all things important in the world of barbecue. It's the Barbecue Central Show.
All right, we thank Pat LaFrieda for joining me last segment. This is going to be a quick turnaround. We have Angel Todd coming up here in just a few minutes to talk about the SCA event in Hartville, Ohio that you won a week and a half ago. Again, the website for Pat LaFrieda, LaFrieda, LaFrieda.com. That's LaFrieda.com. Dry-aged steaks, regular, non-dry-aged steaks, prime, not prime, and the briskets. He said 12 to 14, 10 to 12 pounds should be the size you want. Stick around. We'll be right back.
This is Maddie Rempe from Cleveland, Ohio, and you're listening to BBQ Central.
Happy to have you aboard here for the really big barbecue show.
Boing.
We cook because we have to, and we grill because we want to.
Hit me.
Fine, how's it going?
You have a great show. I'm a big fan.
Boing.
So what seems to be the problem here? This man looks like he's dead, and he's in the crackle.
Charbono! It's all about the Charbono, dude!
Succulent fish. What?
He ate 54 wieners.
Oh, listen, LaFrieda, it's a shake piece.
I'm shaking like a dog shit peach seed.
We have top men working on it right now. Top men.
All right, you have found the Barbecue Central Show, second hour. This is where I normally rant and rave about whatnot. But forget it. We've got an interview to do. A few weeks ago, the very first Steak Cook-Off Association event took place in Hartville, Ohio, home of the world's largest hardware store, fun fact. Winning it was perhaps not your usual suspect, as announced right here live on the show last week. While I was in the middle of my segment with Robin Lindars, 17-year-old female took the very first grand championship and punched her ticket to Fort Worth in September for the World Steak Cooking Championship in the process. Here to talk about the win and how she got into this live fire competition world is Angel Todd. And Angel, how are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm absolutely fabulous, Angel. Appreciate you making time this evening. And let me get rid of my mixer there, hiding you. There you are. Sorry about that. So before we get into the event in Hartville like a week and a half ago or so, let's talk a little bit about how you got interested in live fire competitions. Where does it come from?
Sure. So my dad has always wanted to compete professionally in barbecue, but never knew how to. So he actually learned, and him and I are like best friends, so I couldn't see him doing it without me. So I help him all the time, and now we have a catering business, and we've been doing it every weekend since I was in 8th grade, and I'm going to be a senior this year. So
you're going on like 5 years of this.
Yeah.
So does he say, hey, Angel, I'm really interested, as a 12-year-old, say, hey, I'm really interested in wanting to learn how to barbecue. You want to, like, try it out with me? Or does he just take you on the road or what?
Yeah, he kind of just does it. And like I said, we do everything together. So I was like, well, I want to help. So, and now we're here.
And it's fun for you.
Right. I love it.
I think it's important to note that certainly you're a grand champion steak cooker, no doubt. But it's important to note that you are a KCBS certified judge, you're an SCA judge, and you're also an SCA rep along with your dad. So you're actually kind of running these steak cook-off events too.
Yes.
So do you think it's important to be a judge in order to make yourself a better cook?
See, for the SCA, you have to be a judge to be a rep. So we actually earned our judging certificate in West Virginia last year with Ken, and we loved it. Obviously, we fell in love with the one-day events, and the payout's great, and having to have the winner get to the World Championship, that's really nice. So I don't know that I would say being a judge helps you be a better cook. I mean, it definitely helps you understand the process better, but I don't know that you have to be a judge to be a cook.
So being a father of 3 daughters, that's me, 2 very similar in age to you, I can't sit here and name even one of them or their friends who have ever asked to go in the food competition or have an interest in learning how to actually do the cooking Do you have friends that are into this as well, or are you singular in nature to a certain degree?
No, I'm pretty much singular. A lot of my friends think I'm crazy because that's what I do every single weekend, but I really wouldn't have it any other way. I love what I do, so.
So, I mean, what's the draw for you? As I said, as someone who's got, teenagers that are your age, I'm just endlessly fascinated with what interests kids these days, and is typically not going out every weekend and competing in food.
Honestly, I don't even know. It goes back to me and my dad were so close, and I'm kind of actually a people person, so I get to be out there and I get to produce good product and have fun while I'm doing it. Yeah, it's really all just fun for me. And I wasn't really sure of what I wanted to do after I graduate, so I'm kind of leaning towards this after I graduate, so I already have a head start.
We're talking with Angel Todd. She won the State Cook-Off Association, the first SCA event in Ohio about a week and a half ago. And so do you have a preference between doing barbecue events like KCBS events versus SCA events? There had been, quite a ramp up in popularity in competition barbecue for any number of years. But for my money, I would say that trend is starting to go down, but the SCA is really starting to ramp up. You actually see other steak associate or competitive steak governing bodies aside from SCA now, so that really seems to be taking off. Given your druthers, do you have a preference doing one or the other?
I don't really have a preference. Both of them worked hard to get where they are now, and I'm a fan of both of them. I mean, I can't knock one and love the other. I think they both do a great job of what they do. I really like the SCA, though, only because of the fast one-day competitions and the fact that we get to get into the World Championship. That's a plus for me.
How many SCA events have you done prior to the one you won a week and a half ago?
None. That was my first time I've ever competed.
Really? Ever?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes. By myself. I mean, obviously I've competed with my dad, but by myself, and that was my first.
Okay, so how many did you have in the backlog just doing it with your dad before you ventured off?
2.
Oh, so not a lot at all.
2, right.
So when Hartville pops up on the map of, hey, we're going to have one in Ohio, I mean, I'm not sure. Where are you located in the country?
Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
Okay, well, we certainly don't like Pittsburgh here in Cleveland, but we'll leave that as a side here. So when you see an event pop up in Hartville, I mean, you got to be pretty pumped up. It's, only a couple hours away. First one in Ohio, pretty big deal.
Right. See, I was actually really nervous, especially because of the first one in Ohio. The SCA has been trying to get into Ohio, and my dad was like, we're both going to compete. Like, you can compete by yourself, and I'll go by myself. And I was like, I don't know, because I don't like to lose. And I competed at the Hartville Grill Fest last year, and I beat him there, too. So that wasn't a surprise.
So it was already old hat beating dad, right? No doubt.
Right. So... yeah, I was nervous, and the whole ride to Hartville on that Saturday morning, I was like, I'm going to win this, Dad. And he's like, okay. And I did, so.
Yeah. I mean, talk it and walk it, right?
Right.
Right. So, Angel, let's go through the process. Take me through the trim and seasoning. I'm not going to bore everybody with how you get your steaks, but once you get your 2 steaks, like how do you get them ready for the grill?
Okay, so I got my steaks, and I went back to our campsite, and I immediately put the rub on them. So that was probably like 10 in the morning, and I think turning was 2 to 2:30. So I let them sit and kind of sweat out a little bit in foil in the cooler, and I had my Weber, and I had the grill grates up high, and put it on, and...
The Weber kettle?
Yes.
Yeah. So what kind of rub are you using? Do you give that information out, or do we have to pay for that? Is it Poncho and Lefty steak rub?
No, I will tell you that it was not. I had 2 rubs that I used, and it's just a commercial grade barbecue rub, actually.
Okay, so do you tie these steaks? I've seen that where you'd put a string around
it. I
them.
did tie the one that I turned in, yes.
And do you find a big benefit of tying, or if you have time, you'll tie?
The only reason I'm not against it, but the only reason I did tie it was because it was starting to separate right in the middle, and I knew that was my A steak I wanted to turn in, so I didn't want to risk the appearance factor. So I was like, well, we'll just tie it just in case.
And are you trimming quite a bit? You take the tail off and like make it as round as possible?
Yeah, I still want it to look like a ribeye though, so I did take a lot of the excess fat off and make it as well of a perfectly rounded ribeye you could make.
When you are gearing up the fire, are you a lump lady or a briquette lady or both?
It was lump. It was B&B lump.
And so I see you said you were using grill grates. That was one of my other questions if you use that, but you do.
Yeah.
It seems, I mean, as you quickly perused all the other teams, I mean, would you say 90% of teams are using the product grill grates or no?
I would say, yeah, probably 90%.
Wow.
I think there were at least 2 people that were there that didn't use them. And to me, I think it makes your appearance score look better, but with the SCA, you're not judged on your grill marks. So.
But aren't you?
What?
But aren't you?
Oh, yeah, well, I mean, I don't know.
You can say it. Nobody's listening.
Me personally, I think it looks better. I don't know.
Well, so here's the better question. Would you turn in a steak that didn't have grill marks and feel just as comfortable?
Yes, I would, because
Yeah.
if I was comfortable in my taste, flavor, and my doneness and everything, I think I'd be fine.
Okay.
I've seen guys that at the West Virginia event that we ran, me and my dad, there were several guys in the top 10. It was their first time cooking, and I know they didn't have grill marks. So.
All right, so let's talk about grill temperature, because when I was in Fort Worth like 2 years ago watching the steak competition, like guys were right there with their thermal temp guns, like shooting the grill grates. I think they were looking for like maybe 600 or 650 degrees. You have like a key temp?
I like to get it above like 625, which some people might say is a little high. I think we actually had it up to 700. My dad was afraid the grill grease were going to melt, but they didn't. So anywhere above 625, I'd say I'm comfortable.
And do you have a specific flip time, or is that dependent on your grill grate temperature?
Yes, no. When I first put it down, I like to cook it for like a minute and 15 to 30 seconds, and then I'll turn it 90 degrees to get my grill marks on the other side, and then I'll completely flip it over. But yeah, the first time it's laying down on there, I'm pretty consistent. Once I flip it, that's when I stick my thermometer in and make sure I get the temperature I want to pull it off at.
All right, so it is a temp pull at that point. It's not,
Right.
4 different flips at varying.
Right. Once I
time.
actually flip the steak over, that's when I put the thermometer in.
All right, so what's the temp we're looking for internally to pull off? And then after you pull it, do you have a specific rest time that you're looking for?
What's funny is my dad and I practiced that Thursday night, and I told him that our thermometer, I was like, this thermometer's broke, like it's not accurate. And he was like, yeah, whatever. So we get there, and I stuck the thermometer in it. Once I actually flipped it, I was getting ready to pull it off, and it was reading 170 degrees.
Ooh.
And I was so mad. I threw the steak off, and I was like, this is ruined. Like, I don't want to turn it in. And then he stuck the thermometer back in, and he's like, it's only reading like 99. Like, you're fine. We'll put it back on. So my steak was actually off of my Weber for probably at least a minute, and I had to place it back on, and then we put the thermometer back on, and it would not go above 99 degrees. So, and I was so mad at him because I was like, well, my doneness is going to be off now, and like I said, like I don't like to lose, so I was upset, and that's why like all of this is such a shock to me, because I honestly don't know what temperature I pulled it off at, and I was 1 degree off from having a perfect doneness.
Really? You
Yes.
pulled the steak off just kind of for lack of a better, you just kind of push it and you're like, oh yeah, that's where I need it to be.
Yeah, I was like,
Oh, my
okay, and I
Lord.
let it rest for I think 5 to 7 minutes.
Is that what you would do normally?
Yeah.
So in any other instance, like, are you looking for like pulling it off at 135 to carry it up towards the 140 range, or before that?
It's a little under that. I
Got it.
normally try to pull at like 127-ish, and it'll carry over some, but I'm normally trying to pull the upper 120s.
Mm-hmm. All right, so everything gets turned in. You are through the thermometer incident of 2019, which I can only imagine was very nerve-wracking. So as they
Right.
start getting through the calls out and it gets to overall, and you hear your name called, do they call names, or do they have like tickets?
with the SCA, you have a ticket,
All right,
it's
double
all
blind.
double blind,
Yeah.
and they call 10 through 1, and I think there were 14 people competing that day. So there were guys that were there that had a bet of who was going to win, me or my dad. I was like, obviously it's going to be me.
Right.
So
when
they
you
called
hear
my dad's ticket for 5th place, and that was the first payout money too. So I turned around to the other guys, and I was like, well, now the pressure's on. So I'm going, and then they call 2nd place, and I turned to my dad, and I said I had to have lost. And he looked down because I had my ticket in my hand, and he looked down and he saw it was 3506. I think I'll always have that number programmed in my mind. And she called it, and my mouth just dropped. I was like, what just happened?
So was that?
And then when we go up there, we're supposed to they wanted us to say our name and what we cooked on and everything. I was speechless. I could barely even talk.
So is this the best thing that's happened currently to a 17-year-old winning the SCA and the first event in Ohio?
I would say yes, especially because I'm going to the World State Championships in Fort Worth and the World Food Championship, so
not bad, right?
Right.
Plus $1,000 for the weekend probably isn't too bad.
Yeah, I know. I haven't spent any of it yet, though.
Oh, I was gonna say, do you immediately go to Pulp for a victory smoothie or what?
I thought the same thing. I was like, am I going to be responsible or, but yeah, it's.
Always four additional entries into an SCA event, right?
Right.
Pretty much. Yeah. Wow.
Plus I might need it in Texas.
Yeah, no doubt. So is that the next event, or are you going to try and get something where are you cooking at next?
My family and I my stepmom owns an Ace Hardware, and that's how the SCA got in with Ace, is we ran the pilot program for them.
Oh, nice.
So we actually host a barbecue event every August, and we raise all of our money for Children's Hospital, and we're trying, last year we donated over $7,000, so we're trying to get above that this year. But this year we changed it to just an SCA event, so that will be my next one that I cook. It's the end of August.
All right.
But that's going to be the last ones before Worlds, because we're going to run an event this weekend in Delta for them. So.
Oh, Delta. I mean, that's all the way out west.
Yeah.
Delta, Ohio?
Oh, no, Delta, Pennsylvania.
Oh,
it's York County.
Got it. All right. So nice. So you're going right back into it from a rep standpoint this coming weekend. So
yeah.
So you get one cook in before the Worlds in September. So let's all make a pact here. And by all, I mean you and I. You go down to Fort Worth. If you win, you come right back the following Tuesday, and we just brag to everybody about how great you are.
Right.
Right? Okay, good.
I hope I do good
deal.
down there. And then the week after, I'll be down in Dallas for the World Food Championship.
Wow, great. So you'll just stay down there then, right? Are you gonna
muscle
back?
Come back. I mean, I can't miss that much school.
Forget school. I mean, this is real life. This is real life.
Sorry.
That's right. I mean, you're a championship cook. You can't be expected to go to school at this point. I mean, you could get scholarship on that. I mean, who knows? They're offering scholarships for competitive barbecuing in colleges down in Texas right now. So
yeah,
nice. All right. So we are talking with Angel Todd. She won the very first Ohio SCA event in Hartville about a week and a half ago, and she has recapped it and given you all of her cooking secrets almost. She held the rubs to the vest, which I appreciate. Angel, thank you so much for coming on. Good luck in August, and hopefully we'll be recapping your World Championship in September.
Thank you very much for having me.
You got it. There she is, Angel Todd, the champ of Ohio right now. I don't know when the next SCA event is going to be in Ohio, and the next one my kid isn't going to ruin by playing softball. I can tell you that. Forget it. I will go to that one, and I will continually buck the system, as I have said before. I will buck the system. I will cook on a pit barrel. I will go flat side on the grill grates, overall browning, and then probably take my drubbing. All right, we have the embedded correspondents coming up, ate into a little bit of their segment. I'm sure they're pissed, but that's all right. Angel Todd, way better than expected. That was great. Thank you, Angel, again for coming on. By the way, how many 17-year-olds talk like that? Very polished. Good job, Keith. All right. If you are interested in getting your product or service right here on this show. We have a brand new opening. Shoot me an email, and I will get you all the respectives. And this will go fast, obviously. So Greg at thebbqcentralshow.com. In the subject line, put sponsorship, and we can get to talk. Target audience, they all love barbecue and grilling stuff. Hey, we are back with the Embedded Correspondents right after this. Stick around, be right back.
The only show giving you a monthly visit from a doctor of barbecue. A man actually named Meathead. The author of a barbecue Bible. Bloggers, reviewers, competitors, and manufacturers by the dozens. It's the Barbecue Central Show. Once again, here's your host, Greg Rempe.
All right, welcome back. This portion of the show is being brought to you by Smithfield. That's right. You signed up for the Smokin' with Smithfield National Barbecue Championship. Did I mention registration is free? Rule number 3 of the show. If it's free, it's me, so I'll sign up. Hit up smokinwithsmithfield.com for all the details. If you're also ready to find out where you rank against all competitive barbecue cooks from across the country that are already registered, visit the same website, smokinwithsmithfield.com. All right, it is the 4th Tuesday of the month, and that, of course, means the Embedded Correspondents segment. We ate into it a little bit here, gents, but forgive me. Angel Todd was regaling us with her championship steak cooking techniques. So quickly, as we race around the day, it's for 17 years old, John from Michigan. You ever heard a more polished 17-year-old steak champ?
I'm not upset that we're here. I wish she was still on and I wasn't here. That was great.
Absolutely. David Huff, your thoughts?
Yeah, I commented on the YouTube chat. I wish my daughter had that type of interest in grilling and cooking.
I just found it remarkable how well she spoke. Like, I mean, I'm around teenagers a lot, teenage girls a lot, too. I mean, not necessarily the boys, but I can't imagine they're much better. There's a lot of searching for words. Let's say it that way. Steve, were you impressed with Angel Todd?
Absolutely.
Yep. Doug?
Should have held over and taught catering.
What about you, Doug?
Yeah, she was fantastic. Very well spoken.
Yeah. So do you think she'll be a bit more jaded when she gets like competition 8 and 9 and 10 in, or do you think that she'll be still as peppy? Doug?
Oh, I put in the chat that I want to talk to her after 9 cook-offs. I mean, winning your first one, of course, the hook is stuck, and that's what you want to do for the remainder of your teenage years.
Winning's easy. We'll just win all of them from here on out, Pop.
Show karma, she's going to win, though.
Yeah, that's right. She'll be a world champ, and that'll be great. And then I can always say that the karma never doesn't work. All right, we have some topics to talk about here, gentlemen, and we will start with let's start with Steve, since he has the most experience. What is going on with your camera, Steve? It is beyond bizarre. Every time you turn away, you start blinking like you're going to give me a seizure or something.
I don't know.
That's all right. Just stay right there. Don't move. It's not doing it, so don't move. Just stay right there and don't move. Let's talk. So let me set the scene. I was asked after I did my own pork butts for my daughter's high school graduation party by my sister-in-law, who said, "Oh, this is so great, but do you think you could cook some for No Names, please, your nephew?" And I said, "Sure. I will go to Costco the week before." That's this week. And when I get the butts, I will give you the price at that point. That was going to be tomorrow, party on Saturday. She said, fine, blah, blah, blah. Now, I didn't go out of my way to, I mean, there's a lot of finger pointing that we could do, I guess. Here's the question that I'm trying to get at. From a very high level, let's talk about barbecue catering. Let's talk specifically about pork butts, I guess, since this was my issue. How do you cost and then charge a client accordingly? What's your method? Steve, let's start with you.
Well, I take the meat and usually double it, then add 15%. And that usually covers all your profit. It covers your own costs plus some help there. But what I mean, did she? But you know, the first rule is don't ever work for your family.
I
Right?
mean, I guess, but when you're asked, you just give a straight up no.
No, don't give them a straight up no, but you just say, okay, this is how much it is. You want it? And I mean,
yeah, so that's kind of
I
were
guess
we're at.
not asking a catering question. You're asking a
Of course.
counseling question.
Of course, I'm answering. Of course, I'm asking a catering question. It just so happens to be within the family. So,
Yeah, well,
John, what's your
yeah,
method for catering?
Family and friends, it's just pure cost, and that comes back. Some family, I will do it for them as a gift. A lot of neighbors, you know, I will just try to, here, let's drag a pellet grill to your house, and I will show you how. Hopefully I can teach them to fish. But I'm at if I'm going to collect for it, it's going to be double the meat cost.
Double the meat cost. David?
Yeah, so I have a pretty intricate spreadsheet that I use where I can calculate. I plug in the price per pound. If you're buying in more volume, the price will go down. So, you know, if you're doing 8 or 9 pork butts, you can buy a whole case and get them for $1.25. If you're only doing 3 or 4, you probably have to buy them individually. And at any rate, after that, I would say I charge a little more than double, kind of what Steve said, about a 50% margin. And then you want to cover your rub, your aluminum pans, your foils, the thing you're going to need. And I also price it out by pound. Don't get stuck pricing per person. If there's 50 people at an event and you price it per person, they're going to be upset if there's 40 people or if there's 60, and you're going to mess with that. If they're saying there's 50, you say, okay, 50 people, you need X amount pounds of meat per person. That's a total amount of pounds. And here's the price per pound. And that's what I'm going to provide.
Wow.
You run out. If there's too much, there's too much. But I gave you what I said I was going to give you.
Doug, your thoughts on catering?
Yeah, in terms of pork butts, yeah, I kind of agree in terms of pricing. Don't price it out per person, but I price it out like per brisket or per butt, etc. So, you know, typically pork butt is about $12 a pound. You know, at high-end places. Say it again.
$12 a pound. Where the hell are you getting your pork butts?
Yeah, that's what it is down here. So
no, he's saying that's how much a place would charge.
A charge a pound.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I thought you were buying your pork
yeah.
butts for $12 a pound. I was going to ship you some for $8 a pound.
Yeah, no, yeah, exactly. No. So, you know, that, I mean, for a, you know, assuming you get about 11-pound butt, I actually don't, you know, think it's going to shrink down to about 8 or 7 pounds. So, you know, that's anywhere from 84 to 96 pounds of butt. So, but I actually prefer only to do meats. It has to be someone pretty special in order for me to do sides, and then I will charge per person, and usually it's about an extra $5 per person per side.
All right. So I've always operated off cost times 3. So if I'm buying, for instance, my quote to my sister-in-law, if it wouldn't have been my sister-in-law, would have been, so let's see, I think two packs of butts at Costco are right around $40. Times 2 is $80. Times 3 is $240. So I would quote $240 for 4 pork butts. And I would say on the average, you know, you're right around maybe 75 people fed-ish, depending on how fat people are or how much time they're going to come through the line, this, that, and the other thing. And I've never had a sneeze. For these 4 pork butts, I said $120. So just, you know, a couple bucks, 4 pork butts. So my cost is $80. I was just making $40 additional for, you know, rubs, and I was going to food savor these as well because she wanted them done, you know, way ahead of time, blah, blah. She just wanted to reheat. Wasn't going to pull them there. So pretty nice deal. And I said $120, and I got the text back that said, what? I had no idea it was going to be so much. And I'm like, what? So much? I'm cutting you. This is what it would have been, honey. And then, you know, she's like, well, how much is 1 or how much is 2? I said, well, how much is 2? You know how to divide by 2? Come on. So I was just wanting to get everybody's, you know, high level. Is cost times 3 too much? Is that too big of an ask? Or, I mean, you okay with that, John?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think you're there. I just, you know, I'm not catering out to make money. I'm just doing it for loved ones. And that's where I've gone with the times 2.
What about you, Dave? Is that too much? 3 times 3?
It depends how bad you want the business. If it's not family or friends, there might be someone who's competitive that'll come in a little lower than that. But I don't think it's out of range by any means.
Steve, you're in business. You like ×3 or no?
Yeah, I like ×3. You can't go up. You can always come down.
What about you, Doug? ×3?
Yeah, if you're doing raw cost ×3, I think is pretty good. Although I think it's underbidding on the pork butt. Now looking at kind of Dickey's, their catering is $11.50 per person, 2 meats, 3 sides, and rolls. And Bill Miller's, so to me that's the lowest common denominator. I definitely don't want to be lower than that, even for family.
All right. So that's the first topic. Let's go. Yeah, we got time. Second topic. Last week, a star was born. That was my daughter, Bobbi, with the cat poems. Absolutely. Who knew it would have been such a big moment, but she delivered in fine fashion. I believe she said she would urinate on somebody. I'm not sure if that was true or not. Doug is now a cat. So I said I tasked the embedded correspondents to share with us their favorite cat poem. And I think some of you went above and beyond the initial direction, which, is certainly encouraged here. So let's start with Steve as he shares with us his favorite cat poem. Let me get to my tight shot. There's Steve right there. Let me see. Can I move you guys around? No. Oh, dear. It's very loud. It's very loud.
The cat poem. A dog, a pig, and a cat came to a barbecue we were at. The pig was the treat. The dog wouldn't eat. And the cat peed all over the pig meat. And then the cook yelled at the cat, "Hey, cat, why did you do that?" And the cat did a dance and then a cool jig and said, "That's what I do to barbecue pig." The pitmaster, well, he was Korean and saw the cat while it was peeing. So he took out his knife, filleted the cat twice, and said, "I love cats. They taste just like chicken." The Korean then looked at the dog. Because of the cat, we can't eat the hog. So he sharpened his knife, said, "Dog, we have to talk." Then we all enjoyed Fido in the walk. The end.
Wow. Steve, racist as always. That was great. And, man, how long did it take you to craft that, Steve? I mean, that's a pretty in-depth poem. How long?
About 4 minutes.
4 minutes? Wow.
Yeah.
You should be writing rap on the side. My goodness. He's a spitting gamer, as we said back in the day. All right, Doug Scheiding, you are next. Are you? I'm sorry. Let me ask this first, Steve, before we leave you all together. Are you a cat fan?
Nah, I don't have a cat. I've had a cat. They come and go. I don't care.
You're not going to own. You're not going to own one.
No, absolutely not. I'm not going to own any animals right now.
All right. Doug Scheiding's up next. Doug, are you a cat fan?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. All right. Pull that microphone closer to you. You're getting a lot of room noise there, Chief.
Oh, I am?
Yeah. Pull the mic a little closer to you.
Oh, okay.
As he looks up into the vaulted ceilings of the Scheiding estate.
I have my fan on, so that's probably what the noise is.
Got it. Sure.
Okay.
Do you need some production or setup like Steve, or are you all ready to go?
Oh, no. I'm ready to go.
Oh,
I've got a couple. Actually, I wrote 3.
You wrote 3?
Yeah, I wrote 3. I thought we were supposed to write several, so I wrote 3.
Does nobody know how to read and understand the English language anymore? Share your favorite cat poem. I mean, how hard is that? Find a cat poem you like and reshare it.
Well, it was I thought it was the right one.
You maniacs are writing your own cat poems.
All right. So anyway, let me read 2 then. How's that?
3's fine with me. Okay. I mean, if you took the time to pen it, you're going to read it.
All right, so this one is called The Crazy Cat Woman, an ode to my wife, a confession.
Oh, dear.
My wife is the crazy cat woman. At least that is what I tell everyone. She loves to see baby kittens, but also the baby deer, fox, and calves. She goes out at night to get our Hootie cat, who is a big cat that likes to crawl into foxholes. My wife is the crazy cat woman. At least that's what I tell myself. We are down to 4, but had 13 at one time. I have been given the book. I could pee on this. I have been given a 2-foot by 3-foot cat coffee table book. I now know why. My wife is the crazy cat woman. At least that is what I thought. I like to squeeze them. I like to sleep on them to sleep on me. The purring in bed tells me the world is all right. You make me sleep better at night. We live on 5 acres. Thus, the world is my urinal. I could pee on that. I guess I'm the crazy cat man. The end.
Look at you turning. I love it. Great. All right, go ahead. Number 2.
Okay. All right. The barbecue cat.
Oh, dear.
I see you cooking on your grills. I watch you smoke brisket and ribs. I watch you eat steak and chicken, yet I'm forced to eat the dry cat food. You think you are training me. I am actually training you. I meow, you respond. I meow again, you feed me. I am the hunter. You are not. Do not declaw me. I will give you the middle paw. Steve and Bobbi think those people eat cats. I bring you presents. Lizards, snakes, mice, frog legs, and bird feathers. And yet you still don't barbecue for me. I mark my scent on your grill covers. I may start throwing up on the bed. When will you start barbecuing for me? The end.
Wow. That's a dark tale of Kitty. I'll tell you that. All right, let's go to David Huff real quick before we come back for Doug's coup de grace. And let's see what David has come up with before we get to John. And then back to Doug.
Now, Greg, you know I'm dedicated to your show.
Sure.
I mean, I'm not afraid to go in the field for you.
No, you are not afraid to tell Malcolm Reed to do a second take of an ID.
It's all about getting it right. It's
right.
Professionalism that you get on the Barbecue Central show.
I love it.
For Felis catus, the domestic cat, I went and researched. I went to the pound. I got interviews. I wanted to truly be the voice of the cat for you.
I love it.
So just remember, now it's a little bit shorter than these guys, but just remember,
all right,
it's like I'm speaking the words of the cat.
Right. You are feline personnel.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Here we go. Meow. Meow, 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 meow. Meow, meow, meow. I'm sorry, hold on. I messed that up. Meow, meow, meow. Meow, meow. Meow. Meow.
The end?
Meow. Okay.
Wow. I mean, might be hard to understand for those that don't speak cat, but I can tell you're physically drained. I mean, that you put a lot into that.
That was emotional for me. Can I be excused for a second?
Yeah, just take a minute. Take a minute. And we will now jump to John Solberg, who went again above and beyond with this little gem.
The cat is a stray. I do miss it so. Where can it be? No one can know. Go look in the forest. See through the smoke. Could it be there in the sweet blue of oak? I'll man the fire. Continue the cook. Tending and basting while onward you look. The cat was not found. Let's all wish him well. What's on the cooker? I'll never tell.
Oh, yeah, baby. Good job, John. Good job.
Thank you.
How long did it take you to write that?
About 3.5 minutes.
And where did you get the legally allowed music?
That's something that a podcaster has in their arsenal.
Ah, look at you. Got a music bank to pull from. Love it. All right, we circle back for the final effort from Texas embedded correspondent Doug Scheiding.
This is in honor of my love of kids. It's called the baby, Steve. What is this thing that you brought into my house? It can't jump or play. It lays around, cries, and poops all day. It gets food without asking, has its very own bed and room, more toys than you ever bought me. With peace and love, it has no fur and bleeds when I touch it. I'm going to attack the rug and hack a hairball. And I hope that I get a real playmate soon, like Henry the Colorado dog and Nacho Flay did on IG. Time for some sleep. It's all good. The end.
Ooh, it's not all good. Uh-oh. Wow. Doug, 3. Wow. Unbelievable. And you hit that on the post as the music comes up. I got to get my Big Papa's read in here. Then we'll come back and talk about... let's see. What are we going to be talking about next? Oh, the protein you hate to barbecue the most. I have a new answer for that, believe it or not. So you guys stand by as we talk about the protein we hate to barbecue the most. Coming up next, how about I will talk to you about Big Papa Smokers, the one-stop online shop for all things barbecue, a curated selection of only the best outdoor cooking and grilling supplies. Get you on the path to better barbecue results in no time. They have all these great rubs. Popular flavors like Sweet Money, Cattle Prod, Cash Cow, Double Secret Steak Rub, Desert Gold, Happy Ending, just to name a few. There's 13 perfectly balanced flavors to transform ordinary meals into extraordinary. They also have teamed up with Steph Franklin and the gang over at Simply Marvelous Barbecue to form that West Coast offense. Still winning week after week, by the way. They own Granny's Barbecue Sauce, so if you're looking for a new go-to sauce, you might want to give Granny's a try. Aside from the premium selection of rubs and sauces, Big Papa Smokers also offers the very best pellet, charcoal, and wood cookers available today. If you're looking for a versatile smoker, easy to use, the Mac 2-Star General Pellet Grill is the one you want to take a look at. Big Papa's the exclusive Mac dealer and even offers special packages. If you're not down with the pellet cooker, fine. How about the Old Hickory Ace BP, the only charcoal smoker that Big Papa trusts on his competition trailer? They also have a number of other cookers you want to take a look at, like the drum cookers for Big Papa Smokers. If you have any questions, you give them a call at 877-828-0727. That's 877-828-0727, or shop the website bigpapasmokers.com. That's BIGPOPPA smokers.com. More embedded correspondence coming up. Stick around. Be right back.
Continuing to produce incredibly mediocre content in an exceptionally professional way. You're listening and watching the Barbecue Central Show. Once again, here's your host, Greg Rempe.
And before we get into the embedded correspondence on this side of the segment, I will talk to you about Fireboard. Monitor up to 6 different temperatures simultaneously and connect to Wi-Fi for cloud-based monitoring, or connect via Bluetooth. If you have Alexa or the Google Assistant, you're in luck as well, because Fireboard fully integrated with both. Find out more by visiting fireboard.com or call 816-945-2232. And we are rejoined by the embedded correspondents. All right, guys, so I want to talk about the barbecue protein that you hate the most. I'll leave mine for last, but Doug, what's the protein you hate the most?
Well, if it's catering, I would say that would be chicken or ribs. Those just take too much real estate to do for catering events, and so I actually hot dogs excluded, of course, right?
Of course.
But chicken and ribs, and from a standpoint of what I don't like to cook, I don't like to really cook pork loin.
Pork loin or pork tenderloin?
Pork loin.
Okay.
The tenderloin I like a little better. It's the loin is just a big hunk of meat, and it's not very exciting to me.
David, what barbecue meat protein do you hate to cook the most?
Yeah, it's absolutely chicken.
Oh.
I just feel like the crowd is harder to please. There's a little bit of blood, or it's juice, or it's dried out and the skin's not crispy, or I want barbecue sauce, or it's so hard to please people with chicken. Everyone has a different idea of how they want to eat chicken. Usually when I have friends and family over, chicken you really got to watch. Make sure you don't overcook. There's a smaller window, and usually you can't enjoy, you're spending time with the guest as much if you've got the chicken on the grill. So it's just chicken all the way.
John?
If we're just talking the big four, I'm going the one I least like to cook is brisket, just because of the size and the volume, and I don't have a lot of parties, and you're just eating a lot of brisket.
Steve?
Baby back ribs, hands down. I'm terrible at it. They make me nervous. I never get it right. I always overcook them. They fall apart. For some reason, I can do spare ribs, but baby backs, I just have all kinds of trouble with. And it's like Doug, they all take up too much space when you're trying to, do them. And I just worry over them, wring my hands, and I always do a bad job. That's why I can never be a Memphis Barbecue Network competitor. I can't do baby backs.
Couldn't you do spare ribs in Memphis Barbecue, or it has to be baby backs?
Well, if you want to lose, you can do spare ribs.
Oh, okay. For me, it's brisket. I've decided that I hate brisket. I would also like to say, fuck brisket. I've had enough of it. I get that everybody's in love with it, and it's like the most popular thing ever on the face of the earth, and that I'm hashtag Summer of Brisket 2019, but I'm a freaking liar, and I've had enough of it. And I cooked a brisket over the weekend, and I'm sitting here ready to tell you that it was, again, as average as it can be. I'm trying to pack it in with flavor. I'm trying to want to like it as much as everybody else likes it. In fact, I'm going to go above and beyond and say this. I think everybody else is fucking crazy, too. How about that? Nobody likes brisket. Everybody hates it, but nobody can now say that they don't like brisket because it's too trendy. Well, guess what? Shut the fuck up. Brisket sucks, and I hate it. John, document that. That's a rant that just came right off the cuff. Now,
wow.
once I can cook brisket better, then it's going to be my favorite. But right now, no way. I'm done. It is hashtag, as Michael Quisenberry is saying in the instant chat. Or wait, who was it? Oh, sorry, John Dawson, hashtag brisket blows. I've had enough of it. All right, let's...
Summer baby teas.
He's pretty tough up there in North Cleveland, way far away from Texas, huh, Doug?
I guess so.
Yeah, I mean, Doug, am I overreacting? Is brisket...
It was a great rant. I love the rant, so I would say no to that standpoint. Just pick a different subject other than brisket. Brisket is still king.
Yeah, brisket is still king. No doubt. Now, I guess contrary to most of you guys, I love to cook chicken. Maybe it's just because it's the seasoning I use. I mean, it's either boneless, skinless chicken thighs rolled up with some Sweet Money and Little Louis seasoned salt from Big Papa Smokers, or it's my smoke-roasted whole chicken wings with my homemade Anchor Bar wing sauce. I've never had a complaint. I've never personally had any issue cooking a multitude of chicken. So, and everybody seems to love it. So I'm more on the chicken bandwagon myself, but whatever. Let's talk about the plant-based real quick. Let's go around. I had Pat LaFrieda on earlier in the first hour, and he made a couple interesting comments. The first was he's not a fan of the fact that these plant-based meats are coming in to try and slide in and compete in the burger market, and says that they would be more successful used in different ways. And then secondary, but he does think that it does have staying power. So I guess let's quickly go around and see who has sampled the delicacy of either Beyond or Impossible, if you like it as a burger, or if you see it gaining steam as a different protein option and different dishes aside from burgers. John?
I haven't sampled it. It's not a low-carb food, so it's not in my... I will try it at some point, but I can't have the bun. I can't have the rest of it. It's already high carb. I think that's kind of niche is where it's at. It's going to be a burger. I don't think that you can stop that train now until it comes out at us in some different form that doesn't look like ground beef, that looks like some other form of product.
Doug, your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, far be it for me to disagree with Pat LaFrieda, but I think burger is kind of where it's at. And I think I would like to try it. I haven't tried it. I know you have a couple of times.
Yeah.
I also thought what was interesting, what he said is that it languished on the shelves for a couple of years, and now it's grown in popularity. That was pretty interesting comment to me. But I think it's actually going to who likes tofu? But tofu does pretty well, so I think there's a place in the market for it.
Steve, your thoughts?
No, I disagreed with Pat LaFrieda. I don't think it's got a lot of staying power. It's gonna find a niche, and it's gonna be in the frozen food section, just like the black bean soy burgers, whatever those things have been there for years. People put them on. Vegetarians put them on buns. They put lettuce, they put ketchup, tomatoes, cheese, and then they bite into it. They go, "Wow, this tastes just like a cheeseburger." Well, you're just tasting the condiments is all you're doing. So who knows? I have not sampled the new stuff. I will probably not sample it unless somebody buys it for me or takes me to dinner and says, "Here, eat this." That's the only thing I'm going to pay for. I might do it then. But I have those black bean ones occasionally when my daughter comes over, and they're edible. But that's it.
Dave, you have thoughts?
Yeah, I would like to sample it. I have not yet. It's definitely growing in popularity here in Oklahoma. Or I shouldn't say growing in popularity, growing in availability. More restaurants are offering it, and you can find items on the shelf. I actually think it may stick around. I think that as science gets better and people get concerned about the quality of meat, hormones in meat, and the way animals are treated, I just think trends are going to continue to grow, whether there's fact-based or not. I think people are going to look for meat alternatives, and the science behind making it better, tastier, texture more like meat, etc., is going to continue to be something that people will be interested in.
Let's quickly go around. Do you think that there is any buyer confusion or gray area, John, that the Impossible or the Beyond Burger is also a healthy option or a healthier option? Do you think that the general public thinks it's better?
I think that they do think it's better, even though I don't necessarily agree with that.
David, do you think that the consuming public thinks it's a healthier option, even though it isn't?
I think there's two kind of categories. One that thinks it's a healthier option. I'm not eating saturated fat and animal proteins, but I think there's also a group that believes that it's more on the ethical treatment of animals side. So I think there's two categories.
Doug?
Yeah, I absolutely do, because in the beginning I thought, oh yeah, this has got to be a lot less calories, a lot less carbohydrates than regular meat. But yeah.
And Steve, do you think the consuming public is confused?
Yeah, I think they probably think it is healthier. I don't know if it is or not. I don't even know what's in one. I know the vegetarians I know do eat vegetarian because they don't like to harm animals. The few people that I've talked to that have had it, oh, it's great, it's great, this is great. Then the next day they're back at McDonald's getting a Big Mac. So it's just trendy.
So
that's all it is. The reason the stock went up is because they talked about it on CNBC one morning. It wasn't because it's a great product. Kramer sits there and rails on it, and it goes up 8 or 9 points. But then 3 days later, it comes back and settles back down. So it's just trendy. That's all, just trendy.
I'm a bit conflicted because I've had it. It's been here in Cleveland for the last couple of years. Michael Simon's burger joint has carried it steadily right along. And the first time I heard he had added it to the menu, I was immediately out to the restaurant, tried it as my favorite burger, but replaced his normal patty with the Impossible Burger. But then I also got it just a plain burger, no bun or anything. And so I internally struggle with knowing that it's not meat, but I maintain up until I'm proven otherwise by eating one that if nobody would have told me that it wasn't beef, my first thought biting into it wasn't going to be, that's not a burger. It would have been, that's beef by and large. Also, I am worried that since it is not a very healthy, it's not a very healthy, period. It's also not a healthier option than eating, beef. But if you're eating it in the right way, so I love beef, everybody knows that, except for brisket, as I just said a couple minutes ago. I think that if I don't want to eat meat that day, but I still want to have something that resembles a burger, but I want to take a day off, I can eat it, and it still kind of tastes and feels the same. And then the next day, Steve, as you said, I can go back to McDonald's if I wanted to have a hamburger or make a steak or a regular beef burger at home or what. But I have the option now with something that is better, in my estimation, than a bean burger. I mean, those things suck.
But Greg, why would you want to take a day off? If it looks like meat, tastes like meat, why take a day off from meat?
Yeah, because you're still not eating red meat. I mean, cutting out a portion of red meat is better for you, better for the environment. There's gases and all this other stuff. Certainly me not eating a hamburger one day isn't going to help the world per se, but if everybody is going to start to do it a little bit, there is in my estimation, it's a better option. And I don't necessarily agree with Pat's whole take on it's going to be a loser in the burger realm. I mean, it obviously is kind of a winner in the burger realm right now. Where I think it could really stand to lose would be, will we see it show up as a steak or something else that's, will you see an Impossible brisket or an Impossible ribeye or something along these lines? So, and I don't think we will per se, but yeah, that's it. All right, let's quickly go around for shameless self-promotion. Steve, do you have anything coming up you'd like to tell us about?
Show tomorrow night, Allison's Barbecue Show.
Who's on?
I can't remember the guys. He won the.
What? Do you host the show? You gotta be kidding me.
You surprised me. Urkel Chili is my guest tomorrow. He won the barbecue contest up in Washington, D.C. this past weekend. And he owns a gas station, and he fixes cars and he sells tires.
Wow.
Imagine that.
It's like your twin brother split from birth.
He's the Steve Ray of New Jersey, and I'm the Urkel Chile of Ottawa.
Nice. David, anything coming up you'd like to promote?
YouTube.com/C/HuffDaddyBBQ. I'm going to have a spicy pimento cheese bacon burger video coming soon. I think you saw the picture of it, Greg.
Yes, it looked
I'm going to do a
good.
video on that.
All right. Doug, promotion?
Yeah, this reminds me of the barbecue roundtables of old. Greg, we'd like to thank you for having us on the show, and we really appreciate it, this opportunity. Salt Lake City, I'm going to be teaching some Traeger classes. They're actually already sold out, August 17th and 18th. I'll also be in Bozeman at the Pitmaster Classic, August 23rd and 24th. And if you're interested, you can follow me on Facebook or Instagram at Rogue Cookers.
All right.
Thank you.
And last but not least, the Michigan correspondent, John Solberg.
This Friday, there will be a brand new edition of the Best Moments of the Barbecue Central Show in 10 minutes or less. Get it in your podcast feed. Make sure you subscribe. Head on over to the bbqcentralshow.com for all of your viewing and listening options.
Wow. Just like it sounds on the thing. Live read. Nailed it. Good job, John. All right, so there you have it. It is the embedded correspondents, John Solberg from Michigan, David Huff from Oklahoma, Steve Ray from Ooltewah, Tennessee, and Doug Scheiding, the longest-running embedded correspondent from Texas. Gentlemen, as always, thank you for the time, and we will see you again next month. There they go. The embedded correspondents. Great job. A lot of great takes tonight. I think we were kind of split on Beyond Burger. Steve, I'm going to send you Beyond Burger. How about that? Now you're going to have to try it, right? None of those guys really have websites per se, but they did give their social media, so. And too bad if you were looking to go to Salt Lake City and take Doug's Traeger class. Sold out. Wow. Good job. All right, let's wrap it up. Stick around. I'll be right back.
Whole packers, full racks, legs and thighs, injecting butts. If you've never heard this before, you might think you found the best XXX show ever. Let's get back to the most homoerotic host out there today, Greg Rempe.
All right, welcome back as we look to wrap up the show here. All the way back in the first hour, we had Chris Hughes, Broken Arrow Ranch, brokenarrowranch.com. If you're a rancher out in Texas and you need to thin some of that herd, they'll pay you to do it. How about that? We also talked with America's Butcher, Pat LaFrieda, on the plant-based meat sector. We also talked about LaFrieda Home, where you can get fresh. Like, imagine getting a tomahawk. Some of these other places, it shows up frozen. You got to lay it out for a couple days to get it ready to cook. When LaFrieda stuff hits your front door, open the box, it is fresh and ready to grill literally at that moment if you want. Or as he said, you can put it in the refrigerator for 2 to 3 weeks. What? Nice. LaFrieda.com, the website. Top of the second hour, Angel Todd showed up, 17-year-old steak cooking champion, first SCA champ here in Ohio. She won the Parkville, Ohio, I think it was called Grillin' and Chillin' Steak Cook-Off event about a week and a half ago, and broke it all down, all from how she got into it, being pals with her dad, and breaking down the steak cooking arrangement or program that she runs. Appreciate that. Good job, Angel. And then we closed it out with the embedded correspondents, Doug and Steve and David and John. Big show planned for you next week. We are in, believe it or not, to July. So you know we got Malcolm Reed coming up. We got Sam the Cooking Guy coming up with a lot more. September 11th, 2001. I will never forget. Until next Tuesday at 9 p.m. Eastern, this is your program host and proud U.S. American Greg Rempe. Good night now.